Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakar Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone. Shalom to the hopeful elect. All right. Now, before I get into the scriptures, I'm going to give a couple examples of being subject unto your masters. All right. I'm going to start with, now this is an old cartoon I used to watch when I was a kid, the Ninja Turtles. All right, so you got Master Splinter, which is the master. All right, then you have Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael. All right, these being, the warriors or the soldiers under his tutelage. All right. Now, when you look at the weapons that they were given, these weapons that they were given were to combat, their fleshly nature. All right. When you look at Leonardo, he got the katanas, which a katana sword is a deadly sword. All right. And his personality or his fleshly nature, he was a reserved guy. All right. But he was given these lethal weapons to teach him, that despite, his very calm and, his calm demeanor, that he may, be in a situation where he got to take lives, to protect others. And that he would never, he was entrusted with these weapons because his fleshly nature, okay, was not to fight needlessly. So he could handle that. All right. Raphael, which is like the tough one, the more aggressive one. All right. He was given these weapons called, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, Sais. All right. Which is, it's really a defensive weapon. All right. So to combat his nature, he was given a weapon that he couldn't be really aggressive with. I'm gonna put the pictures up in post-production, Lord willing. But he was given these weapons that, it's a defensive weapon to combat his aggressive nature. All right. When you look at the weapon, you really somebody would really have to get up on him for him to use it. All right. So that was, he was given that defensive weapon to combat his aggressiveness. All right. To teach him patience and discipline. As all these weapons that they were given, or what I liken to spiritual gifts that they were given, was to teach them discipline. So once again, Leonardo was given the deadly weapons. All right. Because maybe sometimes he was too reserved. The hot-headed one, Raphael, was given, a defensive weapon to combat his, natural aggressiveness. All right. You got Michelangelo, who was like the goofy one. If you remember the cartoon from back in the day, he was like the goofy, silly guy, So his master gave him nunchucks. All right. Because although he was, I liken it to what they call ADHD today. Like he didn't keep focus, really goofy guy out there, fun loving dude. He was given that because he was given nunchucks. All right. Because that weapon takes supreme focus to control. We all seen the many depictions of people playing around with nunchucks, and they might hit themselves in the head, hit themselves, in the midsection, because that weapon takes, once again, takes supreme focus to master that weapon. So the one who's lacking in focus, I'm gonna give him a weapon where if he doesn't focus, he's gonna harm himself. And ain't nobody just gonna continue to, harm themselves. So that's his master. I gave him that weapon so he can tap into a level of focus. And Donatello, was like the nerd, the nerdy dude. He gave him a stick or a staff, which is, a simple weapon. All right, but him being so creative, all right, him being like the tech savvy one, him being very creative, he was given a simple weapon to use that creativeness in battle. You can find a stick laying on the ground anywhere. It's not like a katana sword or a nunchucks, which are a weapon that may have higher praise. If you follow me, he was given that simple weapon because his master, and keep going back to his master knew, all right, if I can give him, a simple stick, and his creativity or his intelligence will allow him to use that weapon effectively. All right, so once again, the master, all right, gave them these weapons to teach them discipline. And, I say that, to say that the weapons or the spiritual gifts that we were given or to do the same thing. I bring forth a level of discipline. Going back to Raphael being the aggressive one and being given a defensive weapon. If you have a defensive weapon, you're not going to be as aggressive. So you're going to learn how to have a certain level of discipline, with your aggressiveness. Your aggressiveness now becomes your weakness if you are undisciplined with that weapon. And the spiritual gifts, all right, that we're given do the same thing for us. It's there to keep you disciplined. The Lord knows exactly what you need. Right, our masters, all right, Yahweh Shai, on down to our earthly masters. The spiritual weapons that you're given, the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that you receive from your masters is to help you and to, make you disciplined. But the only way for you to master these weapons is to be subject unto your master. All right, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, even the earthly masters that he's put above you. You have to be subject unto them. Not only to master their weapon, but to grow with it. So many times, I liken it to the apostles. You see, and we've seen many men do this. You get this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, which is a spiritual gift. And you want to take it and run with it. All of a sudden, everything that they've learned from the apostles and elders, a great millstone, and now it's a problem. Now, this apostle is this, and then that one's that, and he don't know what he's talking about. And that's why, they ultimately self-destruct because they can't humble themselves, right? Because they feel as though they don't, although they were given the weapon, if you will, or the spiritual gift, well, now they know more than the master. They know how to use it better than him. So instead of, remaining disciplined and humbling themselves to master, all right, said weapon or a spiritual gift, now they're using it, for their own agenda. Now they're trying to use the weapon or the spiritual gift that they were given from said master. I'm speaking about the earthly masters. From the earthly master to now try to defeat him with it. Which is crazy. All right. Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai put these people, all right, and you can liken it to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, or anybody that's above you in this thing. All right, they were put in that position to guide you to be a master, or in this sense, like a sensei unto you, because of their experience. And going back to the analogy of the Ninja Turtles, that was very wise of their master to give them weapons that would protect them from, if you want to say, what they lacked, or the deficiencies in their character. So the next example that I'm gonna use is Pai Mei, all right, from the Kill Bill series. All right, he was the master, or what they call the sensei of the main character, and he was like it was a rigorous training, very tough on the main character Kiddo. And although it was a tougher training, it was still trying to achieve the same result of discipline. That's why if you remember when she first got there, he challenged her and he said, if you could touch me, I call you master. I bow down to you as a master. And that was, a breaking period. He did that to let her know everything that she had learned prior has to be forgotten for her to reach the next level, for her to gain that supreme level of discipline that he was trying to teach her, or he ultimately taught her. So he beat her up pretty bad. Once again, the training was rigorous. If you remember her learning the close range technique, which ultimately, if you've seen the movies, got her out of a dire situation. All right. Now, if she, would have bucked and, didn't, follow her master, she ultimately would have died in the situations that came later. As you know about, if you've seen the movie, I'm pretty sure most brothers seen the movie, she got locked in that casket, and she was able to, punch her way out of it, because although she was in that dire situation, the discipline that she showed prior was the reason that she was able to get out of it. She wouldn't be able to use that technique if she didn't practice it and become more disciplined, to, I guess you would say, harden her knuckle enough to get out of there. So, going back to the Ninja Turtle analogy, that master may have had a more laid back approach, but Pai Mei in this sense was more of a aggressive type of master. If you remember, also, even in her dire hunger, he made her keep discipline when she tried to eat the rice with her hand because she couldn't figure the chopsticks out. So although she was, very hungry, you still had to have discipline. Just like, when Satan tempted Yahushua, he was a hunger that said it, but he kept his discipline. So whether your master, okay, is, seen to be, I guess, easygoing or laid back, or if he's aggressive and teaches or leads with a level of tenacity, all in all, it's going to be the same result if you be subject unto them. You'll gain the discipline that Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is teaching through said master. And you see, she became, a warrior. She already had skill, but she had to be broken and built back up. So it is a breaking period within, you know, when you under that master's tutelage, it has to be a breaking period because you have to forget everything that you were relying on prior for survival to learn the true tactics of survival, which ultimately is being disciplined and following the words of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai that's given to you by, your earthly master, whoever's tutelage that you're under.